Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you again to Mary and Anna and Tupten Norbeling for offering this course, Establishing a Daily Practice. So thank you, Mary, for reorienting us that we have 2 more sessions. We have today and we have next week. And next week, I'd really like to review and kind of bring it all together. And what I do want to check in with you right now as a refresher from last week, okay, is a little bit of how are you doing with the meditations I mentioned? We've got meditations 1 through 3 that we've done in class and hopefully some practice at home. And I just wanted to check in right now about your practice, your sitting space, your altar, if you have an altar, confusion about any of it, water bowls, what am I doing? It's not going well some days. Anything at all going on for you, please. Any particular questions? And what is working well? How about that? What is working well? Anybody have any questions or comments? So is it going okay then? Is it, I'm assuming that you're getting to your practice, and thank you. Charlene's nodding her head, and Caroline, great. Kathleen, great, wonderful. So thanks very much. I'm really glad it's working. So you're managing. So what I want to do is introduce one other little tidbit, and then we're also going to do a Vajrasattva practice today, purification. So let's take a moment then and do our practice. And this is just another little layer of the day. You might have already done this today. You might be waiting for this session today. We're just going to do an abbreviated way into the practice to refresh ourselves, to keep habituating, imprinting, basically familiarizing ourselves. The other thing, as you know, as many of you know, today's a very special day. It's one of our, what's called in the Tibetan tradition, our wheel turning day, another wheel turning day, a festival day of the year, according to the Tibetan calendar. And we have at least four of these holidays on our Tibetan calendar of this tradition, Gelugpa tradition. Today is Chokor Duchen, and basically it commemorates the Buddha's first teaching. So the Buddha's first teaching was on the 4 Noble Truths that happened about 7 weeks after the Buddha became enlightened in Bodh Gaya, India. And the Buddha then, the conditions didn't come together. So I want to talk about that, and I've been talking about that. What conditions do you need to maintain a rich, consistent practice? The effort, the imprints of familiarity that you make from your side. And those conditions didn't come together for the Buddha to teach, even though he was enlightened. And then finally, and he basically was about what is now a 5-hour train ride, or even shorter perhaps. West of Bodh Gaya is a small village called Sarnath, India, Sarnath. It's outside the big bustling city of Varanasi, or Benares, India. And outside that city is this small village, Sarnath, and it's still pretty much remained a small village, which is nice. I mean, at least the last time I was there. And there's a very ancient stupa, different than the stupa in Bodh Gaya, but around that stupa are ruins of what was a monastery. And it's considered a deer park, like there is still deer in the park, and you can feed them. And then near that site, that's the site basically where the Buddha gave his first teaching. It's a very holy place again. And all of these spaces of the Buddha's life, so similar to Jesus's life story, those places themselves become holy places because somebody holy lived there, practiced there. So again, I've mentioned before, I've led pilgrimages to these holy sites, and a pilgrimage isn't just a normal tour where you're on a bus and you get out and you take some photos and you get back on the bus. And it's where we get out on the bus and we do practices there to inspire us to connect with that original energy of the enlightened mind, of the Buddha being there. So it's very special, these places. And I really like Sarnath. I've spent some time there, some more extended time. Years ago, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I think it was around, I don't know, 1991 or maybe later, maybe 2001, something, I can't remember, but gave a college chakra initiation there in a big field. And there were hundreds of thousands of people. It was, it's very blessed. So the place is really blessed. And so as a result of this, in these holy Buddhist sites, every Buddhist country builds a temple. And you can go around, and in addition to making pilgrimage to Sarnath, you can make pilgrimage. You can go around and visit each of the temples. And if you've never been to those countries, like Bangladesh, which isn't necessarily just a Buddhist country, but Thailand and maybe Burma and Japan and Korea and Tibet originally, they all have temples, and you can go and you get a sense of what the architecture, Buddhist architecture in that country will be, because they build exactly the way it is in their country. And it's the same thing in Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha got enlightened. It's the same thing in Lumbini, where the Buddha was born, and Kushinagar. They all have these very nice temples and places you can sit, and they're all very different, and you get a different feeling from ones. And I know that when I spent like sometimes months in Bodh Gaya doing practices, during the season, what they say, there's a whole bunch of Buddhists there doing these practices. And what I've noticed is, if I'm in the Tibetan temple, and that's a very old temple there, but it's got its Tibetan style, and it might be very dark and have long wall hangings, and the floor might have a little grease on it because people are offering ghee, butter for the butter lamps, and it's a different style. And then sometimes I just go over to the Japanese temple, very different style, these marble floors and lots of space and light. And so it's nice to be exposed to the different ways that they practice the different artwork culturally like that. So today commemorates the Buddha's first teaching, and a lot of centers are doing practices all day. So this is a great time to have a class to think about your practice. And I imagine Thupten Norbeling has something this evening, or if you want, at 7 tonight, I'm leading the program for the New York Center. So you can certainly jump into that, which I think might be 5 o'clock in the evening your time. So feel free like that. Thank you so much. It's a great day to do practice. So what I'd like to do to start is find that comfortable position. Find that comfortable position for yourself, for the body. And slowly allow yourself to relax into the position. Now you might have a different order to practice. It's perfectly fine. And just take a moment to connect or reconnect with your motivation, setting the mind in a most positive direction for our time. Feel free to do the 9-round breathing or some other sort of pranayama practice, a breathing practice. Some of you are familiar, and just feel free at this point to just do on your own. Just clearing out again those subtle cobwebs from that subtle energy system in your body. And please bring your awareness to your breath. So if you'd like you to choose a visual object you may have been working with these past few weeks that you will use as your object of concentration. Just working on some concentration right now. Just choose one object. Close your eyes and bring that object to mind. Making the effort to keep your mind focused on that object. 5 minutes on Shine. Again, checking how you're holding that object. If your mind goes off the object, you simply become aware and bring it back to the object. Just try your best. I'd like you to visualize the Buddha in the space in front of you. So without my describing the Buddha, where are you placing him? What does he look like? How far in front? What level in relation to yourself? See if you can clarify any of those details. Are you remembering the details from familiarity with the description on the pages? It's nice to clarify those details over time. And it's perfectly fine to try for a week or two without the pages, and then go back and read again, and then add some details. And over is how we get better at this practice, to the point where you're so familiar, you have the Buddha with you all day long. So what that does is it keeps your mind, the tendency is to keep your mind in a more positive space. You're less likely to snap at somebody if you're in front of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, for instance. When we're around holy beings, it's like they shed positive cells on us. So it keeps us from negative activities, and it inspires us to be better. So hold that aspect of the Buddha in the space in front, like a radiant golden light being. And from your heart, do you feel to take refuge in this being, this representing the omniscient mind? Maybe he's surrounded by his entourage, kind of the lamas of a refuge lineage. You just imagine. Maybe your other particular teachers you put there. Do they help you? Do they keep you away from more suffering? Meaning helping your mind steer clear, or showing you practices to do that benefit your mind and your heart? And if you'd like, maybe you'd like to place all these beings around you, sentient beings like your family and friends, the way we've described. So again, the more you do these practices and visualizations, they'll just pop into place after a while. They're just there. And think of the 7-limb practice. I'm just going to just state those 7 lines. I just want you to mix those with your mind as best as you can. Just a very powerful practice or prayer to do today. If you haven't already done, there's more elaborate ways, simpler ways. And just think reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. Is there any particular visualization you like to do when you think about that line? Anything you like to think about? I make offerings both actually emanated and imagined. Can you visualize extensive offerings? I confess all my negativities accumulated since beginningless time. Do you experience some deep regret for something negative you may have done, thought, or said? I rejoice in all the merits of all ordinary and noble beings. Just think how wonderful it is. How wonderful it is. And just think, please, Buddha, please, enlightened beings, please stay with us until the end of cyclic existence till the end of samsara. And please teach us. Without the teachings, we don't have the knowledge of how to progress along the path. Please teach us. And just think, I dedicate the merit from making this prayer as best as I can to full enlightenment, to my being able to benefit all living beings. From your own heart right now, make any requests you'd like to make as if the Buddha was really there, the Buddha who's inseparable, perhaps from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, any other teachers you feel at that level of realization. Make heartfelt requests for whatever it is you really need, particularly to help your Dharma practice be successful. I'm going to start reading some of the foundation of all good qualities. I just like you to keep meditating. I want you to just reflect. And we're going to stop at a verse to meditate on precious human rebirth. Just reflect on the words as deeply as you can. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and venerable Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again, please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. So that verse is about precious human rebirth. Please consider right now. Think about your human life. You have intelligence, a relatively good functioning body and mind. Fantastic. And please consider you've met the Dharma and you have some interest to practice. You may feel you're not so good or strong at it right now, but you're doing it. You're actually doing it. There's no magic or mystery about it. Even if you get on your certain seat or cushion 10 minutes a day, you're doing something to look at your mind. It's so significant. So just take a moment right now. Instead of figuring out everything you're not doing, everything you want to do better, just want you to have a few moments to rejoice and celebrate what you are doing well in your life right now. Please breathe that in, that wave of appreciation. And again, have you been giving enough airtime to focusing on the positive in your life? The positive that you do and your positive qualities. Let's do it right now. Again, that's what this is useful for. Really drink it in, just the positive. If your mind runs off to something negative you're not doing, just observe, it's just distraction. It's not what we're focusing on now. And you bring it back to the positive. And just think, in addition, we live in a place and time that not only did a Buddha exist, the Buddha taught, and the teachings are still furthered by our centers, by publications, online teachings. It's amazing right now. We are still in the age that a Buddhist teachings exist. We're still in a world system with Dharma, with Buddha's authentic teachings. Just think about that. There's still people gaining experience and freedom right now by practicing. Just reflect for a moment. If there was no Buddha and there were no Buddhist teachings, what would it be like in your life? Again, what would be missing from your bookshelves? What might be in place of any small meditation or altar space you have? What would you be doing with your time if you weren't helping Thupten Norberling or attending any programs they're offering? So think about this unique opportunity you have right now and that you have created it. It's there because of past seeds in your mind that were interested in spiritual practice. Think about this unique, incredible opportunity. This is an opportunity that you can get ultimately free of all of your suffering, and that will also empower you to help and lead others to that place as well. It's pretty extraordinary compared to all the things people are doing on the planet. Think about how rare the situation is. So just think about all the people on the planet. How many of them are meditating or interested in meditation? And even of those interested, how many are really doing it? Learning how to do it. Think of all the other activities people spend their time doing. And some of the analogies they use in our traditional writings about precious human rebirth, one of them is if you imagine, please imagine all of the sand that exists all over the earth, sand, the sand grains. There's a lot of sand on the planet. There's a lot of the oceans have beaches. There's a lot of water like that. Lakes have beaches that are sandy. Think of all the sand. It's vast, isn't it? The deserts with sand. They go on and on where you can't see anything else. And they say that if you take a straight pin, a little pin that has that little flat head on it, and if you stick that little top of the pin in honey, and then if you stick that top of the pin in sand and lift it up, the amount of sand grains that will stick to the head of the pin compared to all the sand all over the planet. The sand grains on the pin, that's a precious human rebirth. That's how few people have this opportunity that you have. Just contemplate that for a moment. So just think for a moment again, what am I going to do with this incredible opportunity? It's a way again to motivate and inspire motivation. What am I going to do with this opportunity? Think about all the beings suffering. And I have every chance now to use my mind in a way to help them as much as I can. And one day to get enlightened and then help them unlimitedly. Drink that in and let it inspire your practice. You can do this. The Buddha at one point was just like us, an ordinary being. You can do this. So I'm going to continue to read the prayer, Foundation of All Good Qualities, and I'd just like you to reflect again. What topics of the Lamrim might you recognize? Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the negative, slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother migratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I don't practice the 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I have pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm, abiding, and special insight. Having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the 2 attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the 2 stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. In all my lives never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. And just thank glorious and precious Root Guru. Please abide on the lotus and moon seat on my crown, and taking care of me with your great kindness, bestow upon me the attainments of your holy body, speech, and mind. So please imagine the Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front, or a replica, dissolves into the center into a radiant golden drop of light. Imagine that drop melts into your crown and feel all the blessings of his holy body, speech, and mind. And if you haven't done earlier, you can certainly recite some of his mantras here. We can either do it earlier, can do a little bit now. Mahamune Soha Tayata Mune Mune Mahamune Soha Tayata Mune Mune Mahamune Soha. Please feel that oneness. Shakyamuni Buddha's holy body, holy speech, and holy mind. And whatever positive energy we've created, may we dedicate it to our reaching enlightenment swiftly, so we may be of the most benefit to all living beings. Please relax. And when you're ready, please open your eyes. So again, It takes a little time. It can be shorter in your own practice if you don't have that much time. And again, different emphases depending on what you want to do. If you want to do more refuge, then you'd recite some of the refuge mantras we did not do today. So again, I shortcutted that by just saying the Buddha's in the space in front. Do you feel any connection from your heart to take refuge, imagining the omniscient mind, imagining quickly the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, like that. So I was making a little bit more time to read the Lamrim prayer and think about precious human rebirth. But here's another adjustment. You might want to recite more mantras, whether it's Shakyamuni Buddha, whether it's Tara. You could have Tara arise and recite Tara mantras. You might want to do that before you go into the Lamrim meditation. That's fine. Absolutely. So you have different, meditations 1 through 3, there's different layouts of these. It's good to try them first. Try them for a week or 2 each one. And then say, okay, that's not resonating, or I want to do more of this. Or Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave me this to do. So I want to get my refuge done. So I want to do more focus on the refuge. I really want to focus on the Lamrim meditations, which really are great to happen in every session. You can do a little bit that you can do, and you work through the Lamrim. Here's another adjustment. Okay. There is a practice some of you are already doing called the method to transform a suffering mind into happiness. Okay. Okay. Are some of you familiar with this? The method to transform a suffering mind into happiness. Okay, what I'm going to do, and I don't know if Mary can find that and post the link. I can share my screen. We're not going to do the practice right now. I just want to introduce you to it. This is another recommendation that Rinpoche is mentioning, and let me explain. And I know some people will say, you know what, too many prayers, too many words. I hear you. Very common. People go, I thought we were going to meditate. Okay. Again, the words are support for your mind. Try the words first to set up that structure. You've got a visualization. You've got the Buddha. You want to make the Buddha and that merit field ultimately. Like first there's a refuge field. It's smaller than a big elaborate merit field when you get into more extensive guru yoga practices, as we've talked about before in earlier sessions. You want to slowly build up, but the thing is, they're with me all day. You get into a problem, you have trouble, that's who I call on. I don't kind of go to ordinary friends and family, what should I do? I ask my gurus, I ask the Buddhas. I think I also often have in the back of my mind, what would they do? How would the Buddha respond to this? What would the Buddha say? What would Rinpoche say? What would His Holiness say? So again, it's always lifting my mind up into this higher space. I can ask my friends and family for help with problems. Certainly, there's nothing wrong with them. Are they enlightened though? Are they advising from there? So I like to keep my mind in this buoyant place, and I never feel alone. I rarely feel lonely. They're always kind of with me, this thing. And then occasionally I think about them a lot. So sometimes I meet them in person. You go to something. Last night, for me, late last night, was His Holiness was teaching live, A Lamp for the Path, the last 2 nights, because it's a big holiday today. So he was kind enough to give those teachings from Dharamsala online. You can watch recordings of them. And for me, that's the best I can do now. I can't be in front of my teachers in person, but it's at least live streamed. And he gave Bodhisattva vows. So he gives you this connection to what Lama Yeshe called totality heart, totally open heart. And I can just be here in my house, my little town, and, make 3 prostrations, put my hands together, really feel I'm in front of His Holiness. It's ordinary for me now, not ordinary, not that he's ordinary, but I'm so used to, so familiar bringing His Holiness to mind. So I'm there back in that space, and I can get those blessings. Just there in your own bedroom, your own living room, whatever it is, like that. That's available to us. And you can watch those teachings, either just watch the recordings. I like to do it live stream because I feel like that's when you really get the transmission. And they say it does kind of count as an oral transmission like that, getting those vows. It has to be live streamed, apparently, not watching the recording. So, you know, I stayed up late, but it was great. I really enjoyed. And then you go to sleep for me, and then you go to sleep in that space. Okay, so you do the best you can. Okay, so this method to let's see. Right, no, I don't see the link. Let's see if, Mary, did you have that link for the method to find a suffering? If you can find it, let me explain what it is. Okay, it's a few pages. And what it does is it takes you through a scanning motivation of the Lam Rim, briefer than the foundation of all good qualities. There's a few verses. And then it goes into some little bit deeper verses of what's called Lojong, mind training, okay? And it's a few verses, and then it goes into mantras to bless your speech, to bless, like they're mantras that help whatever you're reciting that day be much more powerful, okay? So the mantras may be a little strange for you in the beginning. And people go, I don't know about the mantras, I haven't learned them. Slowly you learn them. Slowly you learn them, okay? Slowly you learn the prayer. You can memorize it. So what I do in the morning while I'm setting up my water bowls and my altar, and this is a practice that honestly can be streamlined, So that's what I do when I'm setting up my altar. I don't take a separate thing and sit down and then like slowly recite really slowly. I don't have time, I have so much practice. But I like that because what it does is it kind of oils my springs in the morning. It's already a motivation right there. So I first have a motivation. Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, there it is. She's just posted it in the chat. Method to transform a suffering life. Okay, we're not going to specifically look at it, but really it's something that in memorizing, and I've memorized it because I do it out loud every day. Okay, might take you a couple weeks, few weeks to memorize, that's fine. And what I do is now while I'm setting up, maybe the whole practice, it may take me about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes max, but I bet it's about 10 minutes. I just start reciting it. I'm filling up a pitcher with water. I'm going over, I'm incensing the bowls, and so I might stop when I'm incensing the bowls because then I'm doing Om Hong, holding the bowl over the incense. But basically I'm just reciting that prayer. And that's what's easy when you memorize, is I'm reciting the prayer, but my mind is present when I'm doing it. I'm not thinking about something else. But it kind of gives me this buoyant cushion to start the practice. Okay, so I recite those verses, okay, and then I start doing the mantras to bless my speech, and I visualize as best as I can. Because I do it every day, my mind can stay present there when I'm visualizing and what I'm trying to visualize. And, you know, one visualization is blowing on my rosary, my mala, something so that whatever I recite on this the rest of the day has more power. Everything multiplied more. And today's a day, everything's multiplied. They say hundreds of thousands of times. So it's about maximizing that benefit. So if you don't have time to recite a longer Lam Rim prayer every day, like the foundation of all good qualities, I at least every day have that initial Lam Rim that tells me how to think about the different scopes of the Lam Rim more quickly. So my mind every day has some connection there, okay? So I just wanted to explain right now, I'm just giving you, because I know one of the questions from, I don't think she's in the class anymore. Leah was here initially, we've lost a few people, and what happens is people have a different idea of establishing a daily practice. Like they kind of want something different. And this doesn't resonate with everyone. I'm just teaching it traditionally the way this particular Discovering Buddhism class is actually taught. But not everybody resonates. Sorry, I keep losing my plug. So, but I prefer to just teach it more traditionally to give you one grounding in this. And what I found to really support my mind and what has also helped me, people say, I just want to meditate, I just want to sit and focus on my breath. And you can do that. I'm not sure you're going to make as much progress on the path. That's been my own experience. But again, you have to try something. You might find you're really a Vipassana practitioner. Vipassana Buddhism, beautiful. From the Thai forest tradition, originally from Burma, okay? And a lot of it is used mindfulness on the breath, beautiful practice, nothing wrong with that at all, okay? It's a different tradition. That might work for you, or maybe Zen practice, something else. So you can try for a while. I've just found that there is some level of the analytical focus on the Lam Rim, rolling it in, including it in a Guru Yoga practice that has been a phenomenal support for my practice and has really helped me then build other practices in, that has actually helped me get to tantric empowerment, because then you're getting the juice, okay? You need to be properly initiated or empowered. It's a ceremony, but what happens is it does lead you to that where you're going to have more experiences and can do deeper meditations. That's when it gets a little juicy. Yes, absolutely. Okay. But you can't just jump to that without a foundation. And this foundation has been really supportive for me personally. So again, it's not what we sometimes think about, and it can be somewhat tedious in a way. So I'm just giving you ideas. I just want to check in with you right now. Does this make sense as far as how you can change things up and work it out in your practice? So there's variety. You might try something for 3 months and say, okay, now I'm going to focus on refuge. So I want to do that practice more. That means you're going to possibly streamline some other things, right? Now I want to work on this part of the practice. Now I'm doing this course and they're focusing on that. So I want to focus on that for a month. Great. No, there's no problem with changing things up. You get variety, and Westerners like variety. Okay, so I just wanted to explain that because it's really important. Everybody okay with that and understand how? That's why I'm just showing you through the different, it takes a little time to show you the different practices to say, okay, here's another way to do it. Okay. So I want to talk about a few other things right now. Okay. And also any questions right now based on what we've been talking about? Mary.
Hi, Venerable Amy, thank you. I'll ask a question about the mantra recitations, the pace. So I understand how to do the mantras, but then when you want to do a full mala or more than one mala, it seems like I don't really understand how to do the pace because it just sounds garbled.
Okay, so mantras, when you're reciting them on your own, and if you're reciting them for counting, you know, you need to get through certain amounts, or you don't have a lot of time that day, but you want to do a full rosary, you know, you can recite them at any pace that works for you as long as they are clear, okay? Once you get into tantric practice, there are some that are mental recitations, but that's different. I'm talking about your air needs to leave your mouth to recite them properly. Shakyamuni Buddha mantra, for instance, Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Munai Soha, could be Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Munai Soha. So I'm not really saying it loudly, but it's clear enough, and I'm actually saying it, I'm reciting it, but it's quicker. So if you're saying it really loudly, Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Munai, that's going to take more energy for you. So you can quiet it down. You know, if it's Tara, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Som 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 Tare Tu Tare. So it's more subtle, but you're actually reciting. And it's a good practice if you're ever in a group retreat where you're reciting mantras, which we've hosted many times at our centers, at retreat centers. And we've hosted a thing, and what you have to be cautious is you have people sitting right beside you. You don't want to disturb them, but you have to recite the mantra. So you'll have a whole room of 80 people. So slightly you're going to hear possibly the malas going, a little bit of the teeth, but you have to be quite quiet, but you're still reciting the mantra so you don't disturb the person next to you. This is why I have mostly I have wooden malas. Mala is rosary. The reason is people get these beautiful stone malas, amethyst, rose quartz, malachite. They're beautiful. I've given them as gifts many times to people. People enjoy them. They're lovely. I would never use them in a group retreat because the clicking of the beads can drive people crazy. Seriously. So you want to be skillful. And I do know people, they've had to adjust. And when we were running retreat centers, we had to kind of explain to people, please be quiet with your mala, your rosary, because people are sitting next to you and they have to hear click, click, click. There's also, if you've ever seen stainless steel counters, meaning it's a little thing this big, and you push a button on it, and it'll count. So if you're counting a lot of mantras in a retreat, in a group retreat, you do need to keep count. And people always say to me, how do you keep count? When I'm at Laudo, I get little pebbles, little stones, but I'm alone in my room. But you do need to keep count. So what I do is, every time I finish a mala, one rosary, I just move a stone. I have 10 stones. So when I move the stone, 10 stones that way, I make a little notch on a piece of paper. That's 1,000. When I move them back, that's another 1,000. So again, each notch is 1,000. But what happens is I was in a retreat, a group retreat, and the woman in front of me had this stainless steel counter. It was a big thing at the time. And she was just clicking away. You know, I'm a Buddhist. I'm not really into murder, but the thought entered my mind, okay? I'm joking. I'm joking. But she's a darling woman. She's actually a good friend, wonderful woman. And at some point in a break, myself and somebody else went over to her very gently and said, hey, you know, is there any chance you can kind of put it under your clothes, the counter, or, and she was fine with, you know, she understood. So you just have to be cautious of that. In your own practice, you can click away and whatever, that's fine. But basically that's how you'd be reciting. I'm tired, too eat so much. Vajrasattva mantra, same. We're going to do this in a little bit. Oh, so you see, like my lips are moving, it's coming out, but it's not too loud. And it also, I can say it more quickly. Does that help? But again, if you feel at some point you want to recite out loud and you're really enjoying the mantra and it's flowing, recite it out loud. Recite it louder. It's really up to you how you feel. I've just developed my own way of what in retreats, how I know I can recite more quickly. But if I'm just enjoying saying the mantra and I really like that and that's working for me, then I say it louder and more slowly sometimes. Okay. And don't be upset if you're zinging along with some elaborate mantra that you learned and it's all going well. And maybe you're in a retreat or you're reciting a number and then suddenly you hit an area and you're totally tongue twisted. It's really common. And it's just one of those obstacles that arise. You're clearing something out, purifying something. So again, we just hang through it, whatever's going on, like that. I mentioned with the tsatsa practice I'm doing now, one of my nundro that I'm doing. So I noticed that through all the times I've been doing it, you know, it went over several years. They changed. Sometimes they all came out so beautifully with very little effort. And just doing the exact same procedures, suddenly I got all these air bubbles in them. Why? I don't know. Same materials, same everything, just purification. So, you know, you need to hit some hurdles. And if I saw it as, oh, here's some difficulty. Okay, I'm getting through something. Stay positive, stay on the course. But there's some people it gets a little hard and then they give it up. I don't feel like doing this anymore. I'm not seeing a result. Hang in there. The result will come. You will see something, but hang in there. But we give up so easily. We give up so easily. Like that. So I've noticed different things and over time and even now, you know, I did a session of satsas the other day. It's one of my last ones. I'm going to pack up the practice pretty soon for now. I haven't finished, but I'm, you know, just have other things I need to focus on. And what I notice is even now, like the last session again, like now my hand is hurting. Like my hand never hurt, but now my hand, because I have to brush the plaster in the molds and suddenly my hand was all cramped up. And I was like, okay, other obstacle. You know, when I first started the practice in December, every time I did a session, I got a rash on my body. It's purification. Okay. I need to get this, we need to get this stuff out, meaning it has to purify. I believe that satsa's helped me purify. A rash is pretty minor as long as the rash doesn't get inflamed and go on and impede me from doing any other practice, which it didn't. But I just was like, okay, it's just purification. You want it, when you do these practices, you want something to come up because it is a sign that you're doing something well. And it was just kind of there and it didn't get any worse. And I was like, yeah, must be the practice. Okay, just keep doing it. I'm not getting as many rashes now, but now my hand hurts. Now something else hurts. Now one mold that was always great is turning up with bubbles and kind of chips in it, which, you know, that's just the practice. That's just the purification. So again, you can welcome it with a positive mind and just keep going, or people kind of give up and go, oh, this is too hard. This is too hard. And hopefully, because again, you've created that Buddha realm in front of you, the Buddha, any particular teachers, when it gets too hard, call on them because the energy will shift for the better. The energy could shift. And also give yourself adequate space, rest, and breaks when you need it. And then when you feel a little bit more motivated, then you dive in, okay? Swim a little further, and then you're like, okay, now I need a little bit of a break, a little rest. Absolutely, that's how we balance like that. I just was recalling one example. I mean, this is a little bit more of strenuous practice, but if any of you are familiar with Laudo, the place I mentioned, I've done a lot of retreat, there's a group called Love Laudo, and they send out a newsletter, an e-letter, like once a month or once every few months. They asked me to write, they said, can you write about any of your retreats there? So I finally, I'm sorry it was so delayed, I wrote about my first retreat, my first solo retreat there, offering water bowls. And Rinpoche's sister was there, Anila Nawang Samden, she's a nun, Sherpa nun. This was around 1990. And I'd never done a retreat alone, and it was very hard. And the water bowls and the whole experience was just a raw, incredible experience that I'm so fortunate to have, but it was hard. Anyway, 2 weeks into the practice of about a 7-week practice, I gave up. I was done. You know, 2 weeks into it, with water, I flooded the yard. I was ankle deep in ice cold mountain water 12 hours a day. My shoes got ruined. It was just too much, you know, what I had bitten off. And I was in the yard of what I had set up with these water bowls on these planks. And I had asked, there was only 4 people that lived there. Rinpoche's mother was alive at the time, and they were only delivering breakfast and lunch to me. Somebody would bring up silently, not speak to me, and leave it in the yard, or I'd be in the cabin or whatever. I'd be offering, whatever it was. They never disturbed me. And I finally, it's too much. The practice is too much for me. Way too hard. I get up at 3:30 in the morning. It's freezing cold. There's no electricity. You know, it was ridiculous. So I'm in the yard, and in my mind, just feel like, okay, 2 weeks, that's enough. I can't do it. You know, and Rinpoche doesn't waste words. So before I had gone there, he had suggested I do water bowls. And then he likes to, if he can, he likes to drive a little spoke into you, a little turn the screw. So what he had said to me was, I'm not sure if you'll finish, meaning offering 100,000 water bowls. But then he said, but try to finish. So saying that to me meant I'm going to be manic about it. I'm going to finish. Like he purposely, I know, said that so that I would drive a little bit to make sure I finish. So but 2 weeks into it, I'm not even near close to finishing. I can't do anymore. And I'm kind of upset with myself, you know, and I'm kind of on the verge of tears and just thinking, whatever, you know, all those thoughts that go on of like, it's too bad I couldn't finish and complete this, but I just can't do it. And it's too much. And suddenly I feel, and thank you, Mary, she put a thing about Laudo in there that is, I feel some energy in the yard. This little yard outside the cabin where I was staying, which was kind of above everybody, above the place. And I feel some energy. I turn around And there's Rinpoche's sister standing in the yard. She didn't come up with tea. She didn't come up with food. She's standing in the yard and she's holding out her hand with an apple in her hand. And she's looking right through me. She's like, and they don't have apples up there. So when I had come up, which was about 3 weeks before, I came up in apple season, lower in the valley. I brought up a bag of apples for the 4 people there because they don't have any fruit or apples, don't grow up there. And the apples I found in the valley were like my favorite apples here in the mid-Atlantic states, these tart, hard, delicious apples picked right off the tree. And they had finished them all by the time I started retreat. There were no more apples left. Maybe she saved one for this moment that I needed inspiration because I was done. But suddenly there she is, not like the wicked fairy godmother, whoever it is in Snow White, holding the apple, the poison. This was the apple from the Guru's sister. This was, so I just remember suddenly looking at her. She didn't say anything. She just stood there looking at me, right through me, picking me up off the ground, basically. And I put my hands together and I bowed my head and she kind of gestured for me to take the apple. And I went over and I took the apple and thanked her, you know, and I just got all this inspiration. And then she liked to come up and look and see about her retreaters. Like, are you okay? She used to take care of all of us. And like once in a while she'd come up, just get an eye, look at you, you know, are you healthy? Are you okay? Are you too thin? What's going on? Look, and then she just left the yard and then I just felt all inspired. So that happened to me many times on retreat. Couldn't do it, whatever. And then ask Tara, ask the Buddha, ask your teacher, whoever you want to talk to. Talk out loud if you want to, if you're alone, and the inspiration comes. So I wrote this little piece for them about that thing. And I finished. I did, you know, some weeks later, 100,000 bowls. When I finished 100,000 bowls, it snowed. And they were outside and they all filled with snow. And it was a momentous, because that's a sign of purification. And it was quite glorious. And I really felt at the end, something had cleaned out. And there's even images of me quite clear. You'd see my eyes and I felt some real wave pass through me. So every nundro, every practice like that I've done where there's a certain amount, quite significant. So those are just some personal things about asking for the help. It's there. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they want you to get enlightened quickly. If they could do it for us, they would, but they can't because we have our own karma that we have to traverse through. What they do is they tell us how to get there. They've been to the treasure, they show us the map, and they're going to try to shortcut the map. And then what we do is we throw wrenches into that, don't we? They give us the shortest direction to the treasure. And then we go, I know that you say to go cross the creek and go under that bough of that tree and all that, but I kind of want to go over here because there's an amusement park I want to visit first. And they go, no, why? Don't waste your time. No, because it's really attractive. That looks really fun. The river looks too big for me to cross, but if I go over there, all my friends are there. This is what happens to us all the time, right? So it's okay. They're so patient and compassionate with us. And they watch us go on all the rides and the roller coaster. And we go on the roller coaster again and again and again. Samsara is up and down and up and down. And we think it's really great when we're going up. And then it goes down. And then we go back to the teacher and go, can you tell us again which way do I go? And they go, well, can you just go over there to the river? And then you get over to the river and then you put your toe in the river and you go, okay, I can manage. And then you start swimming in the river and then you start drowning and then they throw you a limb, throw you a log and you climb on the log and you float for a while. That's our practice, okay? Sorry, what else? Any other questions? Sorry, that was a long discourse there, sorry. But we're making sense, right? I think you understand. I really want to make it real for you and tasty. And I'm so glad you hung out here in this class because I know this is a tough one for people when I decide to teach it traditionally. And I like to personally do the Discovering Buddhism traditionally. And I didn't know if there's any of you that are doing this for certificate. I've been meaning to ask. Anybody interested to do the certificate, this class as, because if you are, there's other things I'm happy to hang out later to test you and check and do assessment questions and make sure you're familiar with all the readings and things. But otherwise you can slowly go ahead and do it at your own pace. But I tend to teach some of them very traditionally if people want. So yeah, please, Beth, question.
Is doing the Nundros or any of those, are those something that you need to be given by a teacher, or is that something that I can be doing just because it's a good use of your time, obviously?
It's a great use of your time. You can just start doing, especially if there's one you feel an affinity to. Like some people go, I really like prostrations because I want to get some exercise.
And today's the bonus, so I can just do like 10 and knock it all out, right?
Well, the thing is,
I'm just kidding.
Right. It's not the best reason to do them just for exercise, but it is a form of exercise. That's okay. So the main thing is, if there's one you really feel like I know some people that said, I really want to know more about water bowls, or I really want to work on Vajrasattva, or I'm going to do prostrations, or I heard about this one, or I want to, whatever it is, it's good to start with that, but it's great if you can eventually get some instruction, meaning advice from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, if you feel an affinity to Rinpoche, where you get a life's practice. And what I mean by that is some of you may have already sought advice. You can do so via email, even if you've never met Rinpoche, okay? But if you see Rinpoche as a highly realized being like that, you can find an email, I forget what the email, but you can email and get a life's practice only if you're really intent on following the advice. Please never ask teachers for advice if you have no intention of following the advice. It's a waste of their time and your time, like that. And Rinpoche even puts that in the instructions now. Please do this practice because I checked it just for you. Don't waste my time. I've read that in the instructions. So what you'll get back, and it may take time, okay? What you're going to get back are pages emailed to you of different practices, books, but your life instructions, clearly Rinpoche checked just for you. He does observations or divinations, if you have faith in that. If you don't have faith, you don't feel connected, please wait, don't do that. And just do what you feel an affinity for once you get proper instruction of how to do that practice. So it's helpful to get instruction, and we have practice booklets for most of those preliminary practices like that. Thank you. So Anna just pasted how you can contact Rinpoche. But again, this is serious. This is a life practice, meaning you're going to get pages of instruction. You're going to get which Lam Rim to read, what topics to meditate on. That'll take you like 3 years. Meditate this many months on this scope, this many months on this scope. It might give you a meditational deity. So that's the deity you have the most affinity to get enlightened quickly. And then what you want to do is eventually find a way to get the empowerment of that deity. Okay, why do you want to get the empowerment, tantric empowerment? So you can do an approximation retreat on that deity to form a closer relationship to that aspect of the Buddha. Why do I want to do that? You get more quickly enlightened. And slowly, but again, that means making some retreat time in your life. That's the time I've had the best practices, the most transformation of my mind is during retreat. So I can't stress enough how these practices are set up to support us in daily life, but the more time you can start to think about building in your life retreat time and getting used to retreat and understanding how to use that opportunity, it's extremely special time. I know it's not for everyone. You could do retreat in your own home. I just did this past winter. It was fine. You don't need to go to Laudo in some place with no electricity. And I mean, now they have electricity. You don't need to go far away. You don't need to extensively suffer on retreat. That's not the point of retreat. It's for you to get to know your mind better. And how do you do that? Through deeper meditations, through familiar practices, familiarizing yourself with practices over and over and over until something starts to resonate internally very significantly. So initially, yeah, is it boring? Yes, it can be boring. Over and over reading these prayers over. I don't really understand the prayers. Why am I reciting them? Believe me, I've been there. I've been there. But I've seen the juice. Once I start integrating a little bit more slowly, more deeply, and that familiarization arises, and that's what's appearing in my mind, and that's what my mind's resonated and merged with. And more happiness comes as a result. Make sense? So I can't really speak enough about it. And I know it's really hard for our daily lives and most people. And even so many Dharma practitioners, many centers say this, and many teachers that people I teach, old friends that I teach with, and that we compare notes about centers and classes that we're teaching to improve our skills and to how can we present this course in a better way that's going to be more useful. And what I found over the years that's been hard is the DB courses, which is Discovering Buddhism, is a number of people have stopped doing them for certification, meaning you can get a certificate, and when you get your 13 certificates of the 13 modules and do some of the practices of the 14th module, there used to be a time when we were all doing that in the past, and now it's like less and less and less. So people kind of want to show up once a week and not do anything else. I understand, right? So a lot of the teachers, some of them said they don't want to teach a certificate anymore. They said, people aren't interested in that. I don't want to do that. Okay. So it's like somehow we don't have the time, or degenerate times we just don't feel the need, because if you get the certificates and do some of the other components, then you can teach. You can teach. And then when you teach, you have to know much more than the students. So it's actually really incredible for your knowledge in Dharma. You really have to know much more than the students to be able to explain it. And when you're explaining it well, you see all that you've had to integrate. So it really can advance your Dharma practice. And we really need, I think, skilled teachers. So that's kind of the things of where we've kind of gotten to. People don't want to take that step. So, okay, let me go through some other things I wanted to talk about. Of course, when I start teaching, all the phone just keeps ringing and things. Okay, here we go. So once again, just one last thing about training in verses. Okay, training in verses, meaning can I memorize some of the verses or things like that? That's up to you. We are a culture that didn't learn by rote memorization the way they do in the Tibetan monasteries. I get that. Our culture, that's not necessarily the way Westerners like to learn by memorization, but there are some things I memorize that, and just by saying it out loud, and it's really benefited my mind, like that's something my mind will go to in the midst of something. And so sometimes 7-point mind training will say, and in your everyday life, train yourself with verses to stimulate remembrance. So it'll stimulate me to think about that instead of the latest song you hear on the radio and other things that contribute to, you know, less virtuous motivation like that. And then the other thing is, if you're doing some Lamrim meditation, okay, you can, in a sense, see the world through Lamrim colored glasses. Okay, this is in between sessions. I mentioned in a past session, the post-meditation times, this is most of your day, you're not in meditation. So what are you doing in the grocery store when you go to the food market? What's it like waiting at the ATM to get money out or to put money in? Or do you ever go into the bank? You know, what are you doing waiting in the doctor's office? What's your mind focused on? Are you reading People magazine and pacing through, you know, paging through the different celebrities and what they're doing? And, you know, or is my mind kind of thinking about the Lamrim? Thinking about, well, it's great, I have an ability, I'm waiting at the dentist to be able to take care of my teeth. A lot of people in the world can't do that. I have this really incredible life right now. Oh, I can give up my seat and let this person sit down. So there's many ways I can, and even if I'm reading things, you know, I can read People magazine. and I see all these people and all their lives and how it's all this comparison of what they're wearing and what they look like and all these things. And as aging starts, I think that type of culture, celebrity culture, suffers extensively because it's all built up around superficial beauty. And our culture doesn't like aging. As soon as one little crease turns up, one little gray hair, then those people, they never get work again, especially if they're a woman, right? So you can read it and just understand that and say, wow, this is, okay, these people, but they're people that also deserve my compassion, my respect. And even though they might look like they have a lot of money and be happy, are they really happy? Happier than having the Dharma, Joel? That's the most precious treasure you can have, like that. Okay, so slowly just thinking about that. Okay, how about walking meditation? I want to mention. This is something more done in the Vipassana tradition, walking meditation. We're moving. Some of you go for walks in your neighborhood as exercise. Great. Okay, why don't you go out of the house? Just imagine walking like this. Imagine, and this is what Tibetans and Sherpas and Buddhists will do if they live near a stupa. Okay, now you have some stupas in New Mexico. Tupten Norbeling have a stupa? Not yet, but you will one day, not yet. Okay, what I do, I don't live near a stupa. Oh my God, it would be great if there was a stupa here, but I don't, okay, in my area. I go out and I visualize on my right and I've been to Bodha, where there's this city block big stupa in Nepal down the hill from Kopan Monastery, if any of you've been there. I visualize a big stupa on my right and I'm walking around it because that's what Tibetans, if you go to Bodha, morning and evening activity it's like traffic. Everybody goes to the stupa, they take their rosaries, you might grab your best friend and you set a motivation and you walk around the stupa and it's packed with people. People taking their goats around, people bringing their dogs around. And the thing is, the holy object is so holy that even if you're walking around gossiping, you get a little bit of merit. But much better to go around reciting some prayers. If you want, put them on your earphones. You have it on your phone, walking around the stupa, fantastic. So I don't have the option, put my prayers on my earphones, go out for a walk. Some of it's memorized, I just do it on my own. And I visualize I have a big stupa and I say some multiplying mantras. Some of them I've already done in the morning with blessing my speech. That's already done. I go out with that motivation that I'm walking around this holy object, walking meditation. Then here's another type of walking meditation. You can do a meditation with precious human rebirth while you're walking. You can do a meditation with death and impermanence. We did this once with Rinpoche at one of the retreats we did called Light of the Path in North Carolina. And hopefully maybe next year there'll be another one of those retreats if we can schedule, if it's safe enough from the pandemic. Okay, and what Rinpoche did is he told us to go outside and walk. It's a beautiful place. And you can either walk every step. I'm another step closer to death. I'm another step closer to death. Another step closer to death. Or I can review, in a sense, part of the 9-point death meditation. I'm walking. Everybody dies. Everybody dies. There's nothing I can do to stop death from coming. And I can just reflect on all the people I know that have died, all the brilliant people in the world that couldn't figure it out, all the most richest people in the world couldn't figure it out. And slowly, so you can take any of those Lamrim topics while you're walking, right? Even if you want to walk fast, but sometimes it's a little easier if you want to walk a little bit more mindfully, slowly, and consider. And maybe you say, I want to walk for exercise. I need to get my exercise. I want to power walk. Why don't you power walk part of it? And you can even power walk another step closer, another step closer, another step closer to death. And then maybe slow down for 5 minutes and reflect on a Lamrim topic. Then after 5 minutes, you power walk on, another step closer to death, another step closer. Yeah. Or I'm racing to enlightenment. You want to power walk. I'm racing to enlightenment. Okay. So different ways you can change up to make it practical and useful. Make sense? And be creative on your own, what you want to, sometimes I walk into the supermarket and, in the States, we have nice supermarkets. Let's face it, they're relatively clean. They have a lot of nice organic vegetables arranged, whatever. It's pretty nice compared to other countries I've been in. So I'll walk in and sometimes I get a little blast like, whoa, strawberry season or something. There's all the strawberries, on sale, whatever. And then I just, for a moment, look at all that produce, glorious, healthy, nutritious, and I just offer it for a moment. I imagine it multiplying, filling all the space, 2 seconds, to all the people on the planet starving and hungry that will never have access to food like that. All the pratas, all the different realms of cyclic existence. And this food transforms into whatever they need to alleviate their suffering, bringing them to ultimate happiness. And I just make a quick offering. So why not make our activities useful like that? Even if you're driving your car road trip, you've got the stupa on your right again. You're driving, I'm probably driving, believe it or not, across the United States in September. Maybe I'll stop by New Mexico, who knows? I don't think we're gonna go that route, but more than likely, I'm not 100% sure yet. I think I'm driving with either a monk friend or a nun friend. So what we're gonna have on the radio is our practices. We have similar practices. We're just gonna be playing that for the most part on the radio. Visualize, we'll have a motivation. We'll bless our tires each day before we get on to whatever insects we kill. I have a mantra on the front of the car. I have a little altar in the car. And we'll visualize we've got a stupa, and then we're going to do our drive. So again, it's not such a mundane drive. It might have we're going to create our little blessed component of our own little space like that. You do the best you can. Okay, let's do some Vajrasattva practice. And let me just, so what I want to introduce you, most of you know this, and you do it for Tupten Norbeling. I just like to conclude with some Vajrasattva practice. So again, as the component of your practice, I've been showing you how to set it up for the day and throughout the day. And what we want to do is close off the day with the purification practice. You can do Vajrasattva practice any time of the day you like. For instance, when I lived at Vajrapani in the woods, if I walked down to work from my cabin to the main building, occasionally, once in a while, I'd step on some insect by accident. And then right there, I could do a Vajrasattva practice very quickly because I had the mantra memorized and I could quickly generate, do the 4 opponent powers like that. Thanks, Mary. I'm going to share my screen with the practice right here. Okay. This is part of your meditation, and this is going to be meditation 4, a short Vajrasattva practice. I'm going to share my screen. And there's variations on this practice, and I know many of you are familiar with this. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay, let me know if it disappears because I'm going to try to make it larger for you. Okay, so mostly we've already started, we've had a motivation. And what I do in the evening again is I return to my practice if I haven't had a chance to continue in the afternoon, but I'll come back to my practice at some point, finish any other prayers, whatever. And then this happens to come, this Vajrasattva practice happens to come in it comes in all the tantric and practices and sadhanas. So I just start that practice and then I start the Vajrasattva. So again, you can settle your body, settle your mind. And if you want to, again, do a 9-round breathing, if you've been away from your practice for a long time, at least relax your body into a good posture. And again, set that motivation. So as we've already set a motivation in the beginning of the session, You can just have a short motivation to do this purification practice to sincerely help us purify negative tendencies that will help move us along a path to full enlightenment quickly, so we can be of the most benefit to all living beings. And imagine in the space in front is Vajrasattva, and instead of where it says father and mother, okay, just visualize a single Vajrasattva without a consort facing you, just like the Buddha, okay? And you could have him in the Buddha's entourage, and you could have the Buddha dissolve into emptiness. And from that emptiness, from that wisdom, arises Vajrasattva, who is simply an aspect of the enlightened consciousness. And this is one that helps us purify. He's like a radiant crystal being, so different looking than the Buddha. He is seated in the full Vajra position, the radiant smile on his face. His hands are crossed at his heart, the left holding a bell, representing our view of the wisdom realizing emptiness. His right hand holds a small Vajra, representing the skillful means of bodhicitta, our method. He's about 6 inches in height, slightly higher than the level of your forehead, and he's seated on a beautiful open white lotus flower. And again, if you like, as it says here, you can visualize all living beings around you. And I like to do this practice. What makes it more powerful and effective purification is to do it with the 4 opponent powers, sometimes called the 4 R's, because they all start with R, which makes it easier for us to remember. Here it starts with the power of refuge. I like to start with the power of regret. So I'm just going to look here what it actually says with, let's see. I don't know if it has it like that. Okay, well, let me mention the, so what I'd like you to do, the power of regret, we're going to start with. I'd just like you to consider a negativity you've done with your body, speech, and mind, maybe today, maybe this past week or the past month, maybe something larger looming in your life you'd like to purify, that's fine. Take a moment right now to experience a very deep sense of regret for this activity. So this is different than guilt. Guilt doesn't plan to do any purification. It just obsessively cycles around how bad you are, what harm you've caused, like that. But I do want to feel some sorrow, some regret, and now going on to the second opponent power, taking refuge. So I need some additional help to protect me from more suffering because of this activity that I did. We have the Buddha Dharma Sangha. And again, Vajrasattva is simply a manifestation of those 3 rare sublime ones, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And if you feel that connection in your heart, that Vajrasattva represents this, feel free if you'd like to join. We can recite this refuge prayer 3 times. I forever take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and in all the three vehicles. In the Dakinis, the secret mantra yoga, in the heroes and heroines, in the empowering goddesses and the bodhisattvas, but most of all, I take refuge in my holy guru forever. So Dakinis and secret mantra yoga and heroes and heroines refer to the tantric practitioners, enlightened beings in that practice. The three vehicles, Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana, like that. And let's recite 2 more times. I forever take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in all the three vehicles, in the Dakinis, the secret mantra yoga, in the heroes and heroines, in the empowering goddesses and the bodhisattvas, but most of all, I take refuge in my holy guru forever. I forever take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in all the three vehicles, in the Dakinis, the secret mantra yoga, in the heroes and heroines, in the empowering goddesses and the bodhisattvas, but most of all, I take refuge in my holy guru forever. See, so here it goes on to the power of regret, where you can call up those activities. I just prefer to do the regret first. And you can read if you want in this practice, read on if that helps you. I just happen to feel in my heart. And now we're going to move on to the remedy. Number 3, opponent power, the remedy. I'm now going to recite some Vajrasattva mantras that I'm going to put on the page with a visualization. And many of you are familiar with this. And this has different things you can recall and remember. So Vajrasattva is very happy to help. And if you'd like, visualize that he comes to the crown of your head, seated on the lotus and the moon seat, just single Vajrasattva, okay? And imagine at his heart, and here it has on a moon disc, is a tiny moon disc out at the center of his heart, lying flat. On top of that moon disc stands a white syllable hung, H-U-M, standing upright, unless you know the Tibetan syllable. Either is fine. All in the nature of light as much as you can. And if you'd like, you can visualize that he is an emanation, not just of the Buddha, but of any particular teacher, especially your root guru. And around this tiny hung syllable is his 100-syllable mantra standing around the edge of the moon, clockwise, like a strand of radiant pearls. And imagine light rays pour forth from this to the entire planet, all 10 directions, blessing sentient beings, and also making offerings to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And it hooks back all of that enlightened energy that comes streaming back into the center of his heart, fully empowering him. Just imagine this purified energy over top your crown, facing the same direction as you. He's about 6 inches in height. And there's a few different visualizations while we recite the mantra. So the first one, imagine light rays now pour forth again from the hung and the mantra garland at his tiny heart, fills his whole body, and begins to overflow from all the pores of his body. And all that radiant, purified energy, purification, comes flowing down through the crown of our heads, pushing down and out all the negativities, especially those we've done with our body, down and out through all the lower openings of our body till they're completely gone. So let's do 3 mantras while we do this visualization as best as you can. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dino Badida Dido Me Bava Sutokayo Me Bava Supokayo Me Bava Anurakto Me Bava Sarva siddhi me brayata sarva karma susame sitam shriyam kuru hum ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tata gata vajra mame mutsa vajra bhava mahasamaya sattva ahum pe. I just wanted to grab this practice booklet. So what normally happens, your procession, just as I explained this first, without us doing just the intense practice, is the first thing you need to do is learn the mantra. So what you do is you do the practice anyway, while you're reading the mantra over and over and over out loud. And I know it's tedious. It's a 100-syllable mantra. It's long. You do the best you can. And eventually you'll learn it, because once you learn it, it starts flowing, and then you can concentrate on the visualization. So it doesn't mean you don't try the visualization a bit, okay? But you're going to go back and forth as you have some of the visualization, and the first visualization is everything going down, washing out through lower openings of your body. And that, again, purifies more related to your body, like that. The mantra is in Sanskrit. So again, this is a phonetics of the Sanskrit. So some of it is hard where it says Sutokayo looks like Sutoshyo, okay? I was taught Sutokayo, but I'm not a great pronouncer of Sanskrit. What I like, I'm just gonna stop the share for a moment, is this little booklet. See how small it is? It's a pocket booklet, okay? And it's available through the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. Okay, I'm just going to put here. Okay, Lama, lywa.org, Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive keeps all of the teachings and recordings of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe, and they've made brilliant booklets of all of these, and they have on their website an amazing amount of teachings you can search by topic. So if you want something for depression, look there. But they make these booklets available, and they're located in the Boston, Massachusetts area. You can email them, and there's no more excuses. You can travel with this. It's really easy. This has in there a better pronunciation that I find is easier for you to do of the mantra. And it also talks about the meaning of the mantra. Let me just explain the meaning roughly. You, Vajrasattva, have generated the holy mind, bodhicitta, according to your pledge. Your holy mind is enriched with the simultaneous holy actions of releasing transmigratory beings from samsara. Whatever happens in my life, happiness or suffering, good or bad, with a pleased holy mind, never give up, but please guide me. Please stabilize all happiness, including the happiness of the upper realms. Actualize all actions and sublime and common realizations. And please make the glory of the 5 wisdoms abide in my heart. 5 wisdoms, ha, 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 ho. That's what that is. So again, it gives you some idea of the meaning, because we like to know the meaning of what we're saying as Westerners. But here's the thing, there's an inner resonance to mantras. So once you have a rough idea of what the meaning is, let go a bit and let that inner resonance happen. And just slowly you start as you're reciting, and once you memorize it and you're reciting more and you have the visualization going, it takes on a different approach, and the purification, I think, could be more significant. That's how we slowly work our way into it. Just wanted to mention that lovely little book that I highly recommend. Okay, I'm gonna go back. Let me share my screen again. Let me describe the second visualization. So what you do is you recite as much as you can. Where did it go? Here we go. Okay. You recite as many as usually you do at least 7 of each mantra. Okay. And I was saying we're going to do 3, but we'll just, for time, we'll just do the 1 right now. The next visualization you want to do is the light keeps coming down from Vajrasattva's heart, pouring down out of all the pores of his body, goes right through your crown, and now it washes all the way down and then back up all the negativities you've especially done with your speech. And it's like when you have dirt in the bottom of a water glass, it comes back up and overflows out all the upper openings of your body till they're gone as you recite the mantra again. 7 recitations. Third time, you're going to visualize a constricted knot of your self-cherishing at your heart center. And the light and nectar comes down through your crown, goes right to that knot, washing it away, eliminating, purifying. It forms again and again, and we continue to purify, especially those related to things I've done with my mind as I recite the mantra. So those are the 3 main visualizations. If you want to do a 4th visualization, to remove subtle obscurations to omniscience, then you can try simultaneously all 3 of those visualizations, which is harder, while you're reciting the mantra as best as you can. So let's do 3 more recitations. Focus on whichever visualization you like. Normally, again, you do at least 7 mantras for each of the visualizations as best you, at least 21, like that. Just try your best. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dino Dida Dido Me Bava Sutokaya Me Bava Supokaya Me Bava Anurakto Me Bava Sarva Siddhi Me Brayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Guru Hom Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mutsa Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dinoba Dida Dido Me Bava Sutokaya Me Bava Supokaya Me Bava Anurakto Me Bava Sarva Siddhi Me Brayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hom Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mutta Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dino Dida Dido Me Bava Sutokaya Me Bava Supokaya Me Bava Anurakto Me Bava Sarva Siddhi Me Brayanta Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Guru Hom Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mutta Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sarva Mumpe. And then obviously, if there's more time, we could go on to recite more mantras. The 4th opponent power is the power of resolution. And this is where I generate in my mind, I resolve that I will refrain from doing whatever negativity I was first focused on to purify. I'll refrain from that negativity for a realistic time period. So again, to say I'll never get angry again isn't really helpful, because you probably will be. But if I say for the first 5 minutes, I'm with that person that really irritates me, I'm not going to get angry, and you keep it, creates a new pattern in your mind. Take a moment right now to make that resolution. So they call that the power of restraint or resolution. And imagine Vajrasattva is extremely pleased with our practice and says, child of the lineage, all your negativities All your broken, degenerated vows are all now completely purified. Just feel you've definitely purified something. And imagine the Vajrasattva on your crown slowly dissolves along with the lotus and moon cushion from the edges of the visualization into the center. And along with, again, imagining the Shakyamuni Buddha we started in the beginning, or you can leave the Buddha out there for the rest of your day. But that Vajrasattva dissolves into a radiant drop of crystal light that melts into your crown. And just feel in emptiness, there is no I, the creator of negative karma. No action of creating negative karma. No negative karma created. Whatever understanding you have of emptiness, reflect on that for a moment. And let's dedicate due to all of these merits of the 3 times collected by all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, myself, and all other sentient beings. And this is again reflection with emptiness. Sentient beings which appear to be real from their own side, but which are empty. May I, who appears to be real but is empty, achieve Guru Vajrasattva's enlightenment, which appears to be real but is empty, and lead all sentient beings who appear to be real but are totally empty to that enlightenment which appears to be real but is empty, by myself alone, who appears to be real but is also totally empty, non-existent from my own side. May the precious bodhicitta, the source of all happiness and success for myself and all other sentient beings, be generated within my own mind and in the minds of all sentient beings without even a second's delay. And may that which has been generated be increased. May I and all other sentient beings have Lama Tsongkhapa as our direct guru in all our lifetimes, never be separated for even a second from the pure path that is greatly praised by the conqueror Buddhas, and actualize the complete path, the 3 principal paths and the 2 stages of highest Yoga Tantra, the root of which is Guru devotion, within our minds as quickly as possible. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samanta Bhadra realize things as they are, I dedicate all these virtues in the best way that I may follow after them. Whatever dedication the 3 times victorious ones gone to bliss have admired as best, in the same way I also perfectly dedicate all these roots of virtue so that I may perform good works. I'd like to dedicate as well for the long lives of our precious teachers, particularly His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and for all those who need additional healing right now, may they receive it immediately and completely. I'd really like to dedicate to my neighbor across the street, Jean McGarvey, who is having breast cancer surgery tomorrow. So I want to thank you so much, and thank you to Tupta Norbeling, Mary, Anna, for supporting this. And any last questions right now before we conclude for today? Some of you doing Vajrasattva already, I think. Yeah, I think that's pretty common. That's great. And it's great that Tupta Norbeling offers that. It's really, and Rinpoche says, once you hear about the Vajrasattva practice and it's explained, then he said, you're crazy not to do it every day. It's a way to just minimize whatever negativities happen to happen that day. Thank you so much. Next week is our final class on this. So what I'd like to do, okay, here's a little exercise for you, because we've got this really sweet group of us. It's been so delightful to be here with you. I'd like to kind of move around the group and have you lead some of the practice, okay? And you can lead it from your own experience that you're doing. If there's something that's working for you in your practice, I would love to hear about it. I would love to have you bring that in. So not to make you nervous, but it's a really great way for you to figure out, like, what am I doing? What comes next? What would I like to do next? Don't worry about it being wrong. There's no wrong in this. It's what might be supportive for your mind. Okay? I'll try that. Thank you so much, my dears. Lovely to see all of you, and a happy Choker Duchen.